there are techniques to assist with stress and anxiousness and needing clarity in the body or clarity in the mind. Sometimes we tend to get that, constant rumination, and we try to settle that with people, especially when they're not feeling well.
Have you been diagnosed with MS and you're looking outside your typical medical system for more answers? You're definitely not alone. Hi, I'm Adrienne. I'm a nutritionist and a certified MS integrative nutritional health coach, and I've helped and interviewed so many people who have reversed this disease holistically, and so can you. If you're serious about getting back to health and learning all the steps to do so, join my community. I've got coaching sessions. I've got 2 courses, a mini course and a 12-week course. I've got special guests that have deep smarts and healing that come on once a month. And I've got lots of resources. So if you'd like to scale your healing and get back to the healthy person you once were, come join me. So just go to my webpage, nourishyourway.com, and hit join the community button. It's that simple. So let's dive into the topic today. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to my YouTube channel and my podcast. I've got both. And I want to introduce somebody special today. Her name is Britt Aldrich, and she is a healthcare counselor and breathwork expert, mostly in the Ayurvedic segment. So I'm really excited and I want to learn more about it. I know that during my health journey, I learned a little bit about Ayurveda and how it all works, but I know I don't know it to the depth that you do, Britt. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. So how did you get involved in where you are today? So tell me your story.
Sure. Let's see. I would say about, starting off, I was always really interested in maintaining my own personal health. I was an athlete, long-time athlete, did triathlons and long distance training. So I've always had interest in understanding how my body operated and how, to make it perform the best that it could. Over time, though, the type of training that I did was so extreme, right? So doing the extreme work. So while doing the extreme work, coming to the realization over time, my body started to show signs of wear and tear and frustration and pain and discomfort. And it became chronic, pain. So, and I just got to the point where I was like, I think I need to stop doing this and find another way. However, as time wore on and I grew older and decided to start a family, I was finding alternative ways just to feel better. It really was just wanting to feel better. And noticing and coming to the understanding over time, I was having chronic pain and other issues. And I just thought it was because it was old injuries from my training. However, over time, it became something else. So, and at the time I didn't know what it was. So, going to the doctor and being told that my numbers were normal and everything was normal and this is just normal, but not feeling like it was okay. I was just like, this is just not right. I don't feel right. I just don't feel right. And so children, work, professional life, the whole busy lifestyle. And I just got to the point where I was just like, I just don't think I can continue this pace. So, internal conversations forever. And then I was just out shopping one day and I, looked to the left of me on a table and I saw this little card and the card said Ayurvedic daily practices, Dinacharya. And was just a few tips bulleted of what to do to maintain your health every single day. And not only how to eat, but also how to treat my body. And it was very simple, small amounts, not that much information. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to give this a try. I don't really know what else to do. I have a frozen shoulder and I don't know what to do here. And so I just started to do it. And I did practice yoga and I did all those things. And I didn't really know how deep the yogic practices and the philosophy was. I had no idea how deep and how ancient really it was. And So, and I didn't know what I was getting myself into. So I did it and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm starting to feel better. The little teeny things that was asked for me to do in that card. And then I just started to investigate further. And yeah, so then I was like, oh my gosh, I can actually like learn how to teach this. I was like, oh my gosh, there's way more to this than I ever thought. Oh my gosh, this is like a lifestyle. This is like a life. So I was like, oh, all right. So I just dove in. And over time came to the realization it really started to make changes in my overall well-being, my health. There were definitely things that happened over time that I think were generating well before I started Ayurveda, which I'm still contending with to this day. However, I've been able to do it naturally.
Hey,
And
Brett, can
yeah,
you tell like whoever is listening what Ayurvedic practices or lifestyle is? Like, can you give us the definition of that?
sure. There's many. So the first piece is what's really important is to understand how you operate and your nature. So a lot of what we do is try to find out, we are made out of, ways they say molecules or cells, right? And according to Ayurveda, we have different characteristics. So, and the characteristics are created through elements. Okay, so we go back in time, we're made out of elements, right? So they are basically earth, water, air, ether, and fire. So all of us have all of those, right? However, some of us have a little more than others. So some of us may have a little bit more earthiness to us, like which is steady, sturdy. And some of us may have a little bit more fire in our body. So our skin may be pink. We may have red hair. We tend to be vibrant and bright and fiery in nature and temperament, right? So when we look at that and we understand how we operate in the world or how we are when it comes to our elemental composition or what we call prakriti, which is our constitution, when we understand that about ourselves, that's how we step into the world. Okay, so now I know what I'm made out of. So what can I do and what lifestyle practices can I learn that find balance, right? So if I have a lot of fire in me, so I probably won't do things that are fiery in nature and those characteristics. I'll do a little less than somebody else. And so when we do that, we're able to find a little more balance internally. And when we do that over time, we start to do things and have life practices and eat our foods and our spices in that way, when we find more balance and we feel a little bit less off, right? We always say I feel off. So when we feel that, we're able to start healing our body. So when we're able to find balance, the body starts to heal. And that's the piece of it. And that's the crux of the whole purpose. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
And then you said there's a lot of yoga involved as well. So can you talk about that?
Or, yoga is a piece, right? So the body is, as we say, our temple, as is the avenue or the thing that encompasses and holds our soul. That's how I feel anyhow. So that's how I proceed. And, the body is as the temple. So we treat it with care and kindness. And part of that is yoga. And so, a lot of people see yoga as like, standing on your head, contorting yourself into this, shape or whatever. But really what it is finding a shape or a seat or a place in the body that you can breathe. And it opens up the channels or the musculature or what we call shrotamsis. It opens up the body, creates a strength, which could be an inner strength or physical strength, but also allows a mobility as well to allow you to bend and move with the world. So yoga is a physical practice. However, it's also an emotional and spiritual practice too. So, we joke around that a lot of people practice in yoga studios. I teach yoga so you can do it at home, when you wake up in the morning and you can just prepare your body to take on the world, right? So it's a preparation of the body and mind. Yeah.
I was reading on your website. Are there like 2 or 3 types of yoga that you
There's
teach?
many. Yeah, so I teach
Okay.
a few. Yes, absolutely. It's part of, it's part of the big picture. So I teach and have been trained in yoga nidra, which is a meditation. It's kind of like learning you how to rest and sleep without sleeping, right? So you're literally lying down, and another version of meditation, or going deep into the inner world or self. There is that. I also do teach. There's regular yoga, right? There's hatha yoga, or there's so many out there, right? So I teach just simple, basic, I don't want to say simple, basic, but I teach yoga, safe yoga, so to speak, just getting your
Yeah.
body right. And then there's the other yoga, another piece of yoga that is restorative, which is also pretty meditative, but just it's a teaching of like placing the body in those positions or asanas or seats in a comfortable way. So you're not really straining or trying hard or it's just being in that shape or being in that pose and just being relaxed at the same time. So it is about, say if you do, oh gosh, like say you do child's poses, they say, but sometimes people say you're putting your hands forward. There is even work in child's pose with the no props or no assistance. There's still work involved, physical work. So what we try to do is ease off on the physical work and just place you in that shape so you can get the same benefits without having to work so hard.
I love
child's
pose, my favorite position, because it's just so relaxing.
Yes. I love it too. And, it's so funny because, the wonderful thing about yoga, this practice, is that as much as I love something, someone else next to me would be like, oh my gosh, I really don't like that one. I don't like it at all.
Isn't it funny? Yeah, we're all so different.
Yeah.
So do you teach yoga online, or do you teach it where you're at?
Yes. So I do teach it in person. I usually do very small groups or one-on-one, I feel. And I do it online as well. I'll do a one-on-one session with someone. Reason being is I really like to work with the individual and teach them a practice that they can do every single day. That is something they don't have to go, oh gosh, no, I have to pack up my stuff and go to the yoga studio and do this, that, or the other, which I love yoga studios. However, some people don't have that kind of time, right? They have 20 minutes maybe.
Yeah.
So I do work with the busy person. I do work with the person that's, lucky to get lunch, so that's usually how
most of us are busy, I think. Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So I work with the busy person. So, teaching them, a few things that are in line also in balance with their dosha, their prakritis, and their constitution. So we talk about seasonal yoga. We talk about how to do it with the season. We also how to balance themselves before they get going. So it is a very, what I do one-on-one is, we do the best we can to create a situation where there's strength, mobility, but also relaxation with the practices that I teach. So right. I do. Yeah.
So you kind of like meet them where they are, right? Like kind of figure out, okay, what are you looking for? And, have you done yoga before, right? And what do you feel comfortable doing? I'm sure you ask all those questions up front.
Yes, absolutely. We when we work together, there's a long plethora of questions that I ask, so many questions I ask before we dive in, because, it may be too, and then there's the other, maybe yoga isn't for you for now. So we usually pause on that and try other ways. And that's really the beauty of Ayurveda, is that you don't really have an opportunity to run away from it, which is part of, you can't run away from yourself. So we try to find a way to accommodate, but also create practice that is doable and sustainable.
Okay. Well, I want to talk about diet, and I want to talk about breath work. So let's talk about diet first. So you mentioned the air, the water, the earth, the fire. So how would one figure out which one they are?
Sure. A lot of it is just, having a conversation, doing an intake with myself. There are many, online questionnaires too as well, people can look at and figure it out. It's kind of fun too to kind of like ask those questions and see what it says. What we try to do is that not only we are created by all of these elements, but our food is as well. So same thing, say for example, if you have a lot of, earth by nature, you're earthy. And then say, for example, in the
That's
season,
me. What are
right?
you?
So we have,
What are you?
oh, so I have, even though I have a lot of earth, I have a lot of fire as well. So, yeah. So, always constantly the opposite, right? So trying to find a common balance, right? Oh, the comedy of trying to find balance. I think it's more like comedic than anything else at this point. So so with diet, what we try to do is we try to do the same, right? So our food, right? So if I say they have a lot of earth going on, a lot of water, we probably would recommend less, root vegetables, for example. Like that's I'll give you a pretty obvious example. And then probably provide a little more seasoning that would be a little more pungent, a little more fiery. So because those of us with a lot of earth tend to have the less urgency to move, right? So ways to create really good digestion too as well. Sometimes our digestion can be slow. And that's also a version of an earth quality, like a slower, more, we say muddy or slow movement. So we try to like ignite that with the food. And that's kind of what it is. So our foods also have the same qualities, same elements as well. So we try to use the food to balance.
So what do you eat then, Brett?
Oh goodness. So I have, right. So I have a lot of, so yes, and it can be dicey around summertime. So I have to be mindful to be very cautious about how I'm a very sensitive person. So personally, I could say that right around this time of year, so here we're heading towards the warmer climate here in New England where I live. So we're getting into hotter weather. So right now, a lot of it is about making sure I don't get too hot internally. And then, because I have earth, I make sure I don't get too stagnant too, because I can burn myself out by sitting still, right? So what I typically do is I do make sure I stay well hydrated, but hydration isn't you don't have to be, some people like you have to drink so much water all the time, but some people don't have to drink as much water as others. So I make sure I have the right combination of some sweet flavors along with the bitter and astringent flavors, because those tend to balance very well. But then the sweet is a little bit. I don't need as much sweet, right? Food. So it's more of the bitter and astringent foods that I tend to go to come this time of year. So it would be like anything in the cucumber world, right?
Yeah.
So
be like an arugula salad or something like that.
Yeah, and it is advised to eat mostly cooked food, just so my digestion works better. So, and I advise that for pretty much everyone, to eat more cooked foods. I don't say, I'm not, if you love a salad from time to time, I'm not going to tell you to stop. I'll just remind you to prepare your stomach for good digestion. So if ever you choose to eat something that's cold or hard to digest, I do ask for you just to prepare yourself to digest it well. So having some pickled ginger beforehand, this thing called ajwain, which is a really great way to start the digestion process before you eat. So if you do decide to eat something like that, we ask you to prepare your body to metabolize it. So that's kind of it. And yeah, so cucumber world, like cucumber water, basil is great. I put that in because I don't want to overeat during the hot time of year because I tend to feel sluggish. So we really, try to do that. Zucchini, summer squash is great. I stay away from some garlic just because that's my nature. I stay away from pretty much any and all nightshade personally. But some people do well with it. But for me, I stay away from the nightshade. So, and that's summertime, right? So, yeah, and then it can change, right? And so, time of year is a lighter fare. So, and then per season and per my nature, I just shift and change how I eat and how I treat my body. Lighter fare right now. Yeah.
So, what about an air person and a water person? What would those two people focus on?
So there's the comment. So we have these things called, not these things, but there's an understanding of doshas. So if someone has a more airy personality and body type, which is Vata. We call Vata, which is ether and air combination. People like that, also they're also very sensitive. So you want to just make sure that they're treated kindly. People with the ether air are very sensitive and they're very sweet and very upbeat, but also there's a level of like inconsistency with how they feel sometimes. Either their they're really hungry or not hungry at all. So you're really working with something that's like a moving target sometimes when you're working with the airy people that are more airy. But honestly, they're just so sweet and kind. And so we work with more of like this sweet, kind, softer kind of food, more flowery food. We do require a little bit of water, warm water, with
Maybe
fennel.
like steamed vegetables kind of thing, like broccoli.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Yeah, we do add with the root vegetables too. They'll eat a little bit more root vegetables versus someone like myself. Eating foods that improve digestion, but also take care of their immune system, because sometimes they can be a little fragile with their immunity. So you want to make sure that they're boosting their ojas, what we call ojas, which is your immune system. So dates are really great. Come November, October, they're in season. So it's a great thing to add. Cinnamon is lovely. Something warming, but also nutmeg is great. That's very earthy as well. So anything earthy, but also floral and kind to the digestion is what we usually supply. People that are more watery and earthy, they tend to be, have it struggle with movement, struggle getting up and going sometimes, especially in the springtime. But summertime, we usually try to do similar things, like just like eat more like astringent and light foods, but make sure your digestion's working properly. So, having a little bit more spice in combination with their food is okay for people that are a little bit more earthy. Have more water, and they don't have to have as much water in their diet. So other ways to hydrate. I'm a big advocate for eating your water. So things like that.
Like cucumbers and like in your fruit, for example.
Yes. So fruit, we recommend for them to eat on their own, almost like a snack.
Okay.
And great way. And mindful eating too, in order to really absorb or really take on the nutrients and the water. We just remind, when you eat quietly and eat without distraction. So that
mindfully.
Absolutely. Yeah. That is.
And enjoy it while you're doing it.
Yeah. Yes. And that's a big, we really feel if you don't enjoy it, then that's not really going to help you either. We joke, they say, oh, if it's medicinal, it's good for me. And I'm like, yes, but if you're really having a hard time enjoying it, then it probably won't be good for you either, because you don't want to take it. So your body's just wanting to reject it right away. So that is another piece too. We try to make sure that it's like enjoyable and there's pleasure with this medicine.
I think that's so fascinating. Thank you for explaining all that.
Sure.
And then tell us about breath work. How does that work with you? Sure.
So, I've been trained in pranayama as well, which is there's the yoga term pranayama, which is breath work. And then there's also another kind of breath work I teach that is a little bit, little different. So it depends on the person, of course, not the breath work I teach. There are some contraindications. It's not for everyone. However, I do utilize my understanding of Ayurveda to decide and have conversation with a client or someone what would work best for them if they choose to do breath work. So there are techniques to assist with stress and anxiousness and needing clarity in the body or clarity in the mind. Sometimes we tend to get that constant rumination, and we try to settle that with people, especially when they're not feeling well. I've noticed, or I've worked with clients that, it's hard for them to concentrate, not just because it's hard to concentrate, but also when they're feeling with not just not feeling well. So it helps to distract and, reconfigure the pathways so they can better concentrate for themselves. So breath work alone, there is a cyclical type of breathing that I teach. It is more of a somatic practice. So it goes straight into the body. Because a lot of the times we don't really know what's happening. We don't really know why, and there's no real term or understanding truly. And sometimes the breath work is a nice way to find clarity before moving forward and deciding what to do as well. So it is a tool. It is a tool for us.
So can you give us like one example of one technique that you teach people?
Sure. And this is probably seen everywhere. Nadi Shodhana is a dual nostril breathing. I use this one a lot with people, especially if there's, if they're having trouble sleeping and they're unable to like really focus during their day or having challenges with that, the dual nostril breathing is helpful. It kind of brings both sides of the body together, both sides of the brain together. It also gives a little clarity in the frontal lobe and, allows a person to feel a little bit more into the rest and digest part of life instead of, fight and flight. Fight and flight. Yes. So, so one of them is the practice simply is you close off the right-hand side of your nose and you inhale on the left-hand side. And then you hold it just for a pause, and then you close up the left-hand side of the nose and exhale through the right. And then you go the next way. So then you inhale on the right, and then you exhale on the left. And then you just go in the left and out the right. So it's this slow, methodical, sometimes you count if you want to count, but it's just one after the other, inhale and exhale on both sides of the nostril. And that tends to bring someone into a space and place of rest and feeling of calm.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's a good one to use if you can use that one anywhere. That's one
So you might say,
it's safe to drive. It's safe to, it's all.
So when you inhale on one nostril and you're closing the other one, that might be what, like 5 to 10 seconds inhaling, and then
yes.
And then same with the exhale. And so you might say, okay, do 10 sets of that. Is that an example? Okay.
Yes. And, I would even say sometimes if someone's like really heightened and feeling anxious, I would even say 3 seconds or 4 seconds.
Okay.
I feel comfortable extending it. Because I can certainly attest, the first time I ever did this, I was like, how many times? If I count, then I'm like, what if I only do 3? Is that okay? I kind of got into that mental piece of like, is it okay if it's just 3 or 4? So I usually just say about 3 or 4. And then over time, the body starts to be able to open up a little bit. And then you can go for it.
I love to customize it like per person, right? Because everybody's different. And
right.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what else? Is there anything that we didn't talk about, or you want to go more in depth into something else that we shared?
In depth about what we shared. What I can attest to when it comes to Ayurveda, there's so many positive attributes to this. And a big piece with Ayurveda is that anything can be medicinal for you through Ayurveda, but everything and anything could also be a poison, as they say. And it really depends on timing, quality, and quantity. And that is a big piece that we try to work on. And on top of that, what we do when we're working with clients that we find really important is less is usually more. And the slower we go, the more we're able to figure out the root cause of what's going on. And sometimes it takes longer than other practices. And, if we stay the course and continue to dig deeper within the self to be able to find what's going on, the more you're able to continue to get better, and it's more long-term.
I love that. I love the fact that you're helping people. I'm sure people come to you with autoimmune diseases, probably any issue, I would think. And then you evaluate them, right? You have them fill out a questionnaire. And then, I guess, like, what if somebody doesn't want to do yoga? They're like, I'm not sure if I want to do yoga. Can you say, okay, well, then go on a 20-minute walk? Like, is that an option?
Yes, absolutely. And that is, yes, that's a big piece too, is, just working with likes and dislikes is very important too. Like, that's important, listening to your client. And when they say they don't want to do something, yes, of course, absolutely. We will not do that. Even if I can agree or disagree, it's not up to me. Really, ultimately, is up to the client what they want to do. I give suggestions the best of my knowledge and understanding, and and the client has every right to do it or not do it, and disagree with me as well. And part of this too is that we work together. It's a big working together. It's
Yeah, it's a
conversation.
team.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's so imperative because, people that come to me are usually at that point where they've been told to do so many things and they're trying to do the right thing and they're still not feeling right. So when you're constantly and consistently being told to do something and you kind of want to start making your own decisions. So that's usually what we do. And I do tread in that space of, these are the options. What would you like to do next? And, when someone slows down long enough to not only take action in their own health, but then also notice the feedback of what happens with their decision, that is a huge step in a direction of healing I feel, for many. And then making a decision based on that feedback. It's like being a scientist, or like, you have a theory, you make a choice, you do that, you figure out what happened from it. And is it something you want or not want? Right.
Right.
And you go to the direction of, okay, this is where I want to go. And that's basically kind of what it is.
Can you give me an example? Like, can you share a
Sure.
story of a past client
Sure.
where they came to you with a certain disease or issue, and you worked with them for, like, how long do you typically work with people?
Sure. It really depends on the person, really depends on how deep and what's really going on with someone. Someone may have a issue where they're just having some, digestion issues, and they're just like, I just don't really know what to do next. And, and we have conversation around that. And, a lot of us, and I can speak as I work with a lot of caregivers, right? So caregivers are very much outside of themselves and taking care of someone else, right?
Yes.
So, and that is a big, huge piece of, okay, hang on a second, you may be okay. You may just be working you may just be taking care of someone else for so long that, like, you still have yet to really care for yourself. So
Exactly. Yes.
Right. So, usually is sometimes I work with someone just like a couple times, a couple meetings, and we just discuss that alone and making a couple little tweaks to change it. And they're like, oh yeah, actually it started to help. And I'm like, and I say, come back to me when you feel like, you need a little checkup, and we check in later. So, there are those moments that we have that. Some people return, some people are like, you know what, I've been doing all right. And then there's some people that you work with, they're like, okay, so we really need to move something big, right? There's a lot to figure out and unearth. And so what we do is we set up a plan, and I do the best I can not to overwhelm. So we do one thing at a time. So we do one thing, we wait a couple months and see how it works. And when they come back to me, sometimes they say, this didn't work for me, this did. All right, okay, so let's go in the direction of what worked for you. And then when we know this, we have other options on top of that. So it really is kind of the spiral of experiencing and getting to know what's happening. I really do appreciate any feedback is positive when it comes to finding out what's going on and what's better for you. Like, I can certainly make a decision, but hey, in our conversation, a piece of information might not have come up until the second time we meet with each other because we just didn't know it was a factor. So we do that, often.
So can you share what you think is, like, one of your biggest success stories?
Gosh. Honestly, my biggest success story was probably working with someone that we really were having a hard time figuring out what to do next. We really had a hard time.
Can you explain what was going on with that person?
Sure, I can try my best. I think it was almost like, let's see. It was complicated because we were working with she was around my age. So like had been going through life just like myself, like, living life. And then all of a sudden received a really difficult diagnosis, right? And felt like, oh my gosh, like, how do I really was losing hope, to be honest. So we tried the best we could. And really what it was it's hard to change your life and do things differently when you've been doing something for a really long time. And
Yes.
changing something that it's been part of their life, right? For who knows how long. And being kind and gentle enough to nudge, maybe we try it a little different, and there were some moments that were really challenging where a couple pieces, they really didn't want to change it. They didn't want to do anything about it. They didn't want to move it. Right. And so what we did was we slowly discussed it a little bit, but then also did everything else around it. Right. So we changed everything else around it. And then over time, they figure it out on their own a little bit too, as well. So what we did is we, over time, and she was very kind to continue to communicate with me because I was like, come on. So we did everything else. And then once we did everything else, she got to the point where she felt safe enough and comfortable enough to let go of that piece when she was ready. And that was a big success. One of, and it is her success. Like I was just there to give her that guidance and to provide her with the knowledge. It really was her success. And I was just there as just like, okay, let's just try this one little thing to help this, that, or the other. And really it was her afternoon routine. And we just dealt with, okay, how about we work on your morning routine? How about we work on your lunchtime? And then over time, when someone starts to feel better, and then notice this one thing that they're doing that they didn't want to let go of, makes them start to feel less better, then the decision is made on themselves. So they decide. And that has been probably the most successful.
Yeah. What's so interesting to me is that, when people have an issue, whether it's MS or a disease or something else that's going on, what people don't realize is that they need to change not only maybe their diet, maybe their movement, maybe their self-care, maybe they're not, but they need to change their mindset. Sometimes like when they're completely healed, they're a totally different person than they were a year ago.
Yes.
Like maybe they have to change their relationships, right? Maybe they have to change their job. Maybe they have to change, and I'm sure you deal with this, is sometimes people have these emotions and these emotional loops that go through their head. And it might take somebody a while to tell you that that's what's going on. What are they holding on to that they're not letting go? I mean, it can be so many things. What I've learned throughout my journey is that our emotions and our emotional baggage, sometimes I call it, or our past traumas are still a part of us and we don't realize it. We need to let it go. We need to forgive if somebody hurt us, right? So that's a big piece too. And I'm sure you help people with that as well.
Yes, absolutely. It's the hidden piece, right? So, and that's what we work on. People usually come to me for specific reasons. However, all of the things that we do are built around our life experience. Our preferences, our desires, our wants, our needs are usually and typically based upon around life experience. And when we make some of the, as we say, obvious changes, right? Diet, exercise, lifestyle, things like that. Over time, there will be a little bit of a thorn or a nag, like, oh, I've done all these things and then I'm still like feeling this way. So it's obviously this. And when that realization comes, and we always say like it's a realization, right? Because, I can certainly have my opinion. but it doesn't matter if they don't want to address it yet. So, when they have their own realization, that's when real deep stuff happens. And that's when you really want to be there and present with them and be available, and support them through that as well. And also I always ask them, okay, when we work together, what is your support system? I always ask that too. It takes a village. I say this all the time. It takes a village for anyone to heal and move forward in life, and making sure that they have resources available, not just me, for support. So, and that is peace. So when that realization does hit, you do want support, you want understanding, and you want compassion, and people around you that can support you through that decision, whatever that decision is.
I agree. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, Brett, where can people find you?
Sure. It's directly through my website. I really love utilizing. So it's www.seedthespirit.com. You can reach me through there. I do 20-minute quick consultations with people that just have questions or would like to hear my voice and get to know me first. You can also reach me on Facebook. I also have Seed the Spirit Facebook page, if you want to see what I'm doing, what I'm up to. I do a lot of in-person teachings. However, I'm slowly migrating towards online. I do online consultations. You can reach me that way.
Perfect. Yeah, I think you've got a contact button on your website. Is your email on there?
It is. Email directly, and then there's also, if you want to do a consultation, there's another thing on the homepage that says 20-minute consultation, and you will come to a form to fill out, and I will reach out to whoever has questions. Yeah.
I love that, Brett. Thank you so much. Thanks for being my guest. Great information.
Great. Thank you so much, Adrienne.
If you liked the episode, please share it and rate the podcast, and then also join my newsletter. And it's easy to get on my list. Just go to my website, nourishyourway.com, go to the newsletter tab, and sign up. And then I'll give you healing information once a week, so you won't miss anything. And I also include a recipe of the week. Thanks for joining me today, and you'll hear from me in the near future.